Let's focus on DynamoDB and let's see how DynamoDB would be helping you and what are the options available in DynamoDB. So I'll try to summarize. DynamoDB is a huge topic. I'll try to give you basic information to get you started and you would have a better understanding hopefully by end of the session. But if there are any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out on the channel or on to the LinkedIn group and we would be happy to answer any follow-up question. Let me get started with DynamoDB here. Now, let's consider we have to store some data. I'm taking some examples of book. Harry Potter is a book name. J.K. Rowling is the author. It has 12 chapters and let's say $20 is the price for it. I have some more data to store. The guide, famous Indian author R.K. Narayan, 18 chapter, $10 is the price. Then we have another book called War and Peace from Leo Tolstoy. And let's assume we do not have sufficient information for this book. We do not know the price. We do not know the number of chapter. And then we have another book called Freedom in Exile from 14th Dalai Lama, 14 chapter, $15 as a price on that. And Dalai Lama is a title. It's not a person's name. Every few years, a new Dalai Lama is selected, and currently the person who is holding this title is called Lama Thondop. So his name is Lama Thondop, and he is Dalai Lama as of now, 14th Dalai Lama. So you can see I have disparate information here. Some places I have same information like page numbers. Sorry, I have my book chapter number and cost. Some places I do not have that information. Some places I have extra information. And let's say another classic Paradise Lost from John Milton. It is made up of 360 pages. It's a poem, so it is not having chapter structure, but it has number of pages. Now I want to store all this data. So if I'm storing this data into a structured database, then I have to do a lot of say null value passing. I have to say, hey, last column is null for first and two rows. Then for third row, there are another null value. So that's not a good thing. What we will do in this case, we will store this data into DynamoDB, and DynamoDB is doing a magic which is called hash function. Hash function is a mechanism by which DynamoDB partitions your data and distributes your data across multiple partitions. So partition is a logical chunk in which your data would be stored. How many partitions would be created, when it would be created, we would be thinking about it later, but this is how your partitioning mechanism works. So DynamoDB would split your data across multiple partition. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So first book comes Harry Potter. Let's say this goes into partition number 1, Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, 12 chapter, $20 price. And similarly, all my books are spread across multiple partitions. So let's say Freedom and Exile goes here, and then my Paradise Lost goes here. So DynamoDB is keeping and splitting my data here. Now, if we maintain only one copy of data, then there can be challenges because it can fail, right? So we do not want to rely only on one copy. So what DynamoDB is going to do? Pay attention here. There is a difference between partition and copy. What you are seeing into these green boxes, these are partition. And those partition is what one copy is. What DynamoDB would do probably, or not probably always, it would do what? It would be creating two more copies of your data, and chances are they are split across or they are spread across multiple availability zone. So one copy in AZ1, another copy in AZ2, another copy in AZ3. Idea is even if there is outage, we don't want our data not to be available. We want our data to be available in most of the cases. So DynamoDB will first create partitions and then create multiple copies for that data so we can give your data anytime you need it. That's how DynamoDB actually works. Okay, let's see some of the operations which will be then performed because this is different from traditional databases. So let me talk a little bit more on that. That is first talk about the write operation. Right. So what we are looking for, we want to write some data. How many copy partitions are created, Pradeep? Partitions, it will depend on multiple factors. So we do not have visibility on that. It's a service. So you do not have to worry about it. DynamoDB would maintain multiple partitions for you. If I remember, one partition has a 10 GB size limit. So if your data is going beyond, then obviously it would keep on splitting it. So that is not your worry. It would maintain partition at the back end for you. I'm just explaining you that, hey, how partitions are actually there. But these partitions are created based on the key you define. We'll see that key in a minute. Okay, now I have a write operation. Let's say my requirement is that Harry Potter is going through a price change and we want to have a price change. Now, In this copy, to maintain who owns the data, we select a leader. We means DynamoDB backend. If I remember correctly, every 90 seconds a new leader is selected and this leader role is shifting. It's not like we want to rely on one copy and put a lot of pressure on this leader. So like leader keeps on shifting every 90 seconds and someone else will become leader after 90 seconds. Any of the copies will become, not the partition. I am saying a copy would be becoming a leader in that case. Right. We want to update Harry Potter price going through a discount. What we are going to do, we are going to give discount for it. Which data will move on which partition? You don't have to worry about the debashes. You select a key and based on that key, your data would be partition. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so let's say I have to store Harry Potter's updated price of $15. Now, question comes, should I send this $15 price update to copy 1? Should I send it to copy 2 or should I send it to copy 3? So for write operation, what we do, we find out, we ask, hey, there is a write, tell me which of the copy is leader. DynamoDB says, hey, copy in middle is a leader. All right, let me send this write request to this leader, and leader now receives a request for $15. Now, what if we just write data into this leader and say, okay, let me update $15 here. And as soon as we update the data, let's say this copy is unavailable, network outage or something. So then my data would be lost. So we don't do that. To ensure data availability, what DynamoDB is doing at the backend, it will not be copying or keeping copy into one location only. What it would do, it would update itself and at least one more copy. Minimum two copies would be updated, and only when both of them says, hey, yes, I have $15 price, yes, I have $15 price, then only update is given to your program, and then it program would say, okay, done, I acknowledge it, I have received the data, done. So minimum two copy will always get updated at one leader, that is always going to be there, which is going to be updated, and randomly selected another copy would also get selected. So now you could see there is a $15 price here, $15 price here, but if you see this one, this still has not received the data, which means this one is still waiting for it. DynamoDB will take little time and then make this update also on that third, but for a fraction of time, it may happen that copy 1 and copy 2 has updated price and the third copy may not have the less price. Mahum has a question that why not update the third copy? It will slow down. What if you have to host a meeting between two people and three people? If two people has to meet, finding a common time slot is easy. If you have three people to meet, then finding a common time slot will take little extra effort. Same thing here. So if we wait for every one of to them confirm, then it would become lot and lot of slow process to write data. So we say, hey, we got at least on two, that is good enough. You are little behind and in some time we would update you, don't worry about it, you are getting that data. So little behind will be the second copy, but at least two copies have. So that's why we don't keep them into it. What if the same outage is both in AZ in the same time? Tanu, in that case, consider that access and retention are different thing. When there is an outage, let's say this copy is also down, this copy is also down, right? Means you are getting stale data, but your data is not lost. When these copies become healthy again, it would push this change here and it would be updated. So data won't be lost. It may not be available that very moment. So just be aware about the difference. There is a difference between retention, so durability, and availability are two different things. In case two availability zone goes down, you would have availability lost, but durability would still be there, right? Can we see the data mismatch if data pull from third partition? Yes, Ramakrishna, that is the next topic. Give me a minute, I'm coming to that. So hopefully everyone is clear what is a write. In write, I would be updating at least two copy. When I say I, means DynamoDB backend. I don't manually do it. I just send a write request to DynamoDB and it would take care of it. That's all we need to do. Done. Write done. Let's talk about read. Now in read, there comes some challenges. Let me explain what kind of challenge I am talking about and pay attention to that. So when I say read in a DynamoDB, pay attention here. I have read. In read, I have two options. I have a read which is called eventual read or eventual consistency. And second one is called strong consistency. Let me explain the difference between them. They both are possible. So when you read, you have to tell DynamoDB, hey, what kind of read it is. Is it eventual read or is it strong? Eventual is default. If you do not say anything, we would consider you need to eventual read data. Let me explain that. What is the eventual consistency? So let's say this is my current status of data. Copy 1 has $15, copy 2 has $15, but copy 3 is still waiting for that update to happen. And in the same time, somebody sends a request and say, hey, give me Harry Potter prize. So if a Harry Potter prize has to be given, now what system can do? System can say, okay, is it having any specific requirement? No, they didn't specify is it eventual or strong, which means it is eventual. So what system is going to do in this particular case? It would find out any copy and send request to it. Randomly, it would pick up any copy and it would send request for reading Harry Potter prize in this case. So it would be that read request may end up on copy 1 or copy 2 or copy 3. It doesn't matter. But the data which is returned would be different. Let me explain. So what would happen in this particular case? If your request ended up on copy 1 or 2, you may get Harry Potter price as $15. But if your request went into copy 3, you will get price of Harry Potter as $20. So what is happening here? For the same request, first time when I requested, I may get $15 and next time I may get $20. What we say it here that this data may eventually become strong. This is currently having different values available. Now you would say, would it not create problem in my application? I would say it depends. Let me explain why it depends. What is the reason of that? Let me try to explain it on a paint so that you could relate it. What is the meaning of eventual consistency? So eventual consistency means that your data may be having different answer in both the cases. Let's try to understand it by an example. Let's say these are the 3 copies of my DynamoDB copies. So this is copy 1, this is my copy 2, and copy 3. Right. Now, I have a stock price of Amazon. So let's say Amazon stock prices is, let's say currently is $125. After the split which happened previously, it was higher. So if the current price Amazon is $125, what is going to happen? This price is going to be same in all the copies, right? So let me copy this thing here. So this is same here and this one is same here, no problem at all. So right now, if I ask any question to C1, C2, C3, I would get the same answer, no problem. But let's say now change happened. As soon as some time afterward, my copy has changed from $125. So let's say $130. This is the new price of Amazon stock. Now, what can happen in this case? That this information would be maybe copied here. So that's fine. We were able to copy this thing here. And maybe the second copy was also stored inside some other places. So this copy information or this price update happened here, right? But my middle copy is still waiting for that update to happen. Now in this case, if I am doing a purchase transaction or sale transaction, this is not a good design for me. But what if I am displaying Amazon stock prices into a news scroll, right? I can put a disclaimer that these prices are 5-minute delayed, right? Doesn't matter if I display 125 or if I display 130. It's not that critical complication because I have put a disclaimer that I am okay to have stale data. So data may be stale when you are reading directly, and that is what we call eventual consistency. Now, will I always get old data? Answer is no. See, when I'm reading, my request can go to C1 or C2 or C3. So it is a 1 in the 3 chances that I may get stale data. So stale data may be delivered to me, but my application is news application. I don't worry about it. But what if I have a stock sales and purchase application, stock application, where I make changes or buy stock or sell stock? In this case, I need accurate data. I am not worried about performance. What I'm looking for, I am looking for accuracy. So when you say accuracy, then what happens? DynamoDB will read, say, in this case, I would select a parameter that I need my strong consistency data. So when you say strong consistency data, DynamoDB will go and say, hey, who is the leader? Leader would be the one who always have the latest updated copy, latest updated data. So let's say this time C3 is the leader. So where my request will be going for read, it will go to C3 and I will always get the latest data. I would never get stale data, because to become a leader, important thing is that that leader should have all caught up changes. It should not be falling behind. It should have all updated data. Right. So yes, that would be the difference in that. Does checking who is leader causes a slight delay? Yes, that's true. See, because see, when you said I want eventual consistency, we have to do what? We have to just read. But when you say you need strong consistency, we need to find out, hey, who is the leader? And then we say, okay, now give me the data. Now I would be doing reading. So strong consistency would be little slower, as there is an extra step required to find leader first. Eventual consistency will be always faster, because we are not worried about who the leader is, and we just try to get the data on that. Right. So RDS is different. RDS doesn't work here, Padmaja. RDS work differently. So the consistency issues with read reply and RDS2 are only DynamoDB. No, this is only specific to DynamoDB. In RDS, you had different connection string. In DynamoDB, you have one endpoint we are talking to. There is no different endpoint. There is always one endpoint for DynamoDB to whom I am talking to, right? So that would be a problem. That will be different use cases. This means C2 can't become leader after next 60 seconds. Absolutely not. In this case, Lakhan, obviously not, because this leader has to catch up. So what would happen in between? It may happen that in between, this C2 may have also caught up 130, and now it has potential to become a leader, but not like always. So it depends how we are going to design it, right? So it depends on what your use case. Let's say I am storing weather data. So let's say current temperature where I'm living is 12 degrees, right? Now, if it is 12-degree, maybe it is right now stored in all the location. In all the copy, I have 12-degree as my data. No problem. Now my temperature changes to 12.1-degree. So is it that important for 12.1-degree to be very accurate? Let's say if it is a hospital and I have some medical equipment or drugs to store at a very specific temperature, maybe at time it does matter, but in other cases, I'm just checking a weather report. It doesn't matter, right? So I don't have to worry about accuracy in some application. In some application, accuracy would be much important. So we will be using that, right? Is it possible to change the leader? Answer is no. That is not in your control. It is always DynamoDB taking care of that. It happens all behind the scene. Thanks, James. So yes, it always happens behind the scene. So decide what your requirements are. So you say, hey, I am looking for a strong read, or am I looking for eventual read? So eventual read can go to any copy and your data would be delivered. But when you say, no, I'm looking for a strong read, in that case, what is going to happen? We will first say, hey, who is the leader? Leader, you are going to respond to me, and then leader would return the most updated value. So I would never have problem in getting the right data. So decide what your requirement are. Same database, you may say, I want to read into strong, or I want to read in eventual, and that would help you to keep your cost low. Because if I give you an example, so one strong read equals to two eventual read. Just giving a basic example, which means in the same capacity, you would get double the performance of eventual read. So decide what you are going to do. So keep the same stock database. If somebody says, hey, I need data for new scroll, let's go ahead with eventual. If somebody says, no, I'm looking for a sale and purchase application, then that time I would will saying, okay, go ahead and do a strong read on that case. So we can utilize that what we have. Do we have only two consistency level? There is one more that is called transaction. Uh, so I won't be able to cover it. There is one more option which is called transactional consistency, but for now consider only these two happens. There is one more where we can add transactional support into DynamoDB, but for now I would say yes, two options. Okay.